everybody, welcome to my channel, Cassidy the Aspiring Author. I'm Cassidy. If you're new here, it's really nice to meet all of you. I appreciate you clicking on the video. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you all. So, as you can tell from the title, today we're talking about Stephen King's Finders Keepers. It is the second one in the Bill Hodges trilogy. And if you haven't seen my first video, click off this one, go see that one. It is called Mr. Mercedes. And if you are interested in reading this book at all and not having any spoilers, please click off the video. I will be doing an entire summary of the book as well as my thoughts throughout. So once you read it, please come back and I would love to hear what you thought. If anyone is interested, this is the bookmark I used while reading it. It is the same one I used for the last one. It is Full Metal Alchemist. I got it at Fan Fusion. Again, I don't remember who made it, unfortunately, but it's a wonderful bookmark. And as always, I will be using this notebook to look at all my notes. So if you see me look down or off to the side, I am just looking at my notes so I don't forget anything I want to tell all of you. So let's get into it. Stephen King, Finders Keepers. Wake up, genius, so commands deranged fan Morris Bellamy to iconic author John Rothstein, who once created the famous character Jimmy Gold and hasn't released anything since. Morris is livid, not just because his favorite writer has stopped publishing, but because Jimmy Gold ended up as a sellout. Morris kills his idol and empties his safe of cash, but the real haul is a collection of notebooks containing John Rothstein's unpublished work, including at least one more Jimmy Gold novel. Morris hides everything away before being locked up for another horrific crime. But upon Morris's release 35 years later, he's about to discover that teenager Pete Saubers has already found the stolen treasure, and no one but former police detective Bill Hodges, along with his trusted associates Holly Gibney and Jerome Robinson, stands in the way of his vengeance. And then at the bottom of it, it says, not since Misery has Stephen King played with the notion of a reader and murderous obsession. In this #1 acclaimed best-selling, filled with nail-biting suspense, that's the hallmark of his best work. That is by Publishers Weekly. And I also noted that Misery was another author, another deranged fan, and it makes me think he has a vengeance against authors, or maybe against himself, and he's putting that in his writing. Ooh. So I'm really excited that Holly and Jerome are back. Love them. And I'm curious how Bill gets caught up with this, because it's not like it was his initial crime before he retired like it was with Mr. Mercedes. So I am just wondering what is going on. So it starts with part 1, Buried Treasure. And then this goes back and forth between 1978 and then like 2009-ish. So we start with 1978. 3 men invade the home and rob Rothstein. They're all wearing colored ski masks. There is red, yellow, and blue. Yellow is Morris Bellamy, and he is the leader of the group. He shoots Rothstein after waking him up because of the books. He is mad. As the back said, he's mad that Rothstein sold out his famous Morris's favorite character, and basically he wants revenge. Rothstein also goads him into shooting him, and so he just gets mad, kills his idol. Red and blue ski masks, they just want the cash, so they go to the safe automatically, and they're like, oh my god, there's so much cash in here, it's fabulous. And then we go to 2009, and Pete's dad, Tom, along with Tom's friend, Todd, they get in line at the job fair. And same job fair as the first book, where Mr. Mercedes crashes into all those people. Pete's parents, Tom and I believe her name is Linda, they were fighting about money beforehand because Tom has lost his job because of the recession. And Tom is like, I'm going to find something here. It's a sure thing. I'm a man. I will provide, basically. Anyway, when the Mercedes crashes into the crowd, when Brady Hartsfield crashes into the crowd, Tom is badly hurt, and then Todd's in a coma. I I actually don't know if they ever mention if Todd makes it out or not. I'm assuming he doesn't. They don't ever mention Todd again in the book. At least not as like a character that you see throughout. Back to 1978, and Morris is sad over the loss of the talent that was in Rothstein's head with him being dead, even though he was the one who killed him. But he's excited about the notebooks, and he really is so pumped to read them. He wants to know exactly what he wrote. Like, he needs to know what became of Jim and Gold, if anything what else was written about him. They go to a gas station, Morris and his two partners, and Morris then his two partners at the gas station. Again, it's 1978, so it's not like there's cameras to catch him in the act. And he drives away from the crime. One goes down fast, it only takes one bullet. The other, it's a little harder. So I feel really bad for that guy because he died in a lot of pain because I think he was shot in the gut. Oof. 2010, Pete's mom and dad are constantly fighting about money. Pete and his little sister Tina, they call the fights the Arky Barkies, which I think is kind of cute. But the dad needs crutches to walk. He can't work. He's smoking. The mom's really mad. He's spending money on cigarettes when they're so destitute. The mom got a part-time teaching gig. She's the only one with an income, and it's only a part-time job. And it pays far less than what the teaching gig she had previously, but it's all that they have. Pete finds the trunk, and it is filled with money and notebooks. The money, it's in bank envelopes. It doesn't have a name on it. It doesn't even, I think, have the bank on it. I could be wrong about that one. But there's no name on it. There's no way to return it back. And so he decides to use it. And he needs to figure out exactly how, because if he just tells his parents about the money, then he thinks dad will take the money, no questions asked, but the mom might be like, no, we have to return it, and he's worried that it will turn into the worst Arky-Barky fight that they ever have, and it could end in divorce. Back to 1978, and Morris goes back home. It's to his mom's house. She's out of the state. She is like a high-ranking education lady. She does a lot of speeches and a lot of, I can't think of the word. She does a lot of speeches. He makes up a lie to the nosy neighbor as to why he's there, so it won't look suspicious. And then he goes meet up with his friend. His name's Andy, and the friend knows exactly what happened. It's already in the news that John Rothstein has died. And Andy knows that it was Morris who did it because of their conversations, and Andy is terrified. He doesn't want to. Morris shows him one of the notebooks. Andy doesn't even want to see it. He is paranoid. He never thought Morris would go through with it. They were just talking about, oh my goodness, he probably has so much cash. And you know he kept writing. I know, because of his housekeeper. He writes for 8 hours every single day. Like, there's so many novels that could have been written in that time. But Andy is super paranoid about the cops coming, and because Morris went to the hometown of John Rothstein multiple times. He took his friends. The friends are now dead at a gas station. So then that makes Morris also super paranoid about everything. So he decides to take the trunk that he bought at like a yard sale, I think. He lines it with plastics just because it's supposed to rain like that night or the next night. He puts the notebooks in there and the cash, because then if the police come for him and they question him, there's no evidence of the crime. Well, he puts most of the cash in there. He takes out a couple $100 or something, but not a lot. Not anything that would like cause suspicion. Then he goes out for a drink. 2010, Pete decides he's going to send in the money anonymously through the mail. No return address or anything like that, and no note, just $500 cash. Parents, after very little discussion, because they don't know where their money came, they can't return it, they don't know, there's no return address, they stop fighting so much. They are able to pay off a lot of their bills, and $500 might not seem like a ton of money. It's not going to solve every problem, but especially in 2010, especially during such a bad recession, it helped so much. And when Pete has a moment, he goes back to the trunk and he retrieves all the notebooks as well. Back to 1978, And Morris wakes up in a jail cell, super hungover, not remembering anything of the night. And he gets arrested for roping a girl, assault, and resisting arrest. He gets life in prison, and he gets that despite pleading and begging, and he blames the alcohol for it. He'll never do it again, blah, blah, blah. And I am shook that Morris got life for roping, because it doesn't happen now, and it's not like back in 1978 things were more progressive with women. So Morris did have a juvie record, so I think that probably had part to do with it. And I'm wondering if maybe the woman was well off or anything. Not that a college kid who ropes a girl who might not be as well off should not get life. He absolutely should. But I'm just surprised that it happened in 1978, at least from Stephen King's writing. But I'm very happy about it. It's nice to see somebody gets life for such a heinous crime. And now we go back into the future, present, however you want to describe this. But it's 2013 to like 2014. Pete is now a sophomore, and he loves literature. Rothstein is his favorite author. He's read all of the Notebooks. There's 2 more Jimmy Gold novels. And where Jimmy Gold is no longer a sellout, he finds back who he was, blah, blah, blah. The money from the chest unfortunately ran out, as money will do. And on the last time that he sent money, he said that it was over so that his parents wouldn't expect anything more. He's apologized that there wasn't more, unfortunately. He wants to sell the Notebooks now, though, so that his little sister Tina can go to a private school. The parents can't swing it right now, unfortunately, but all of Tina's old friends are going to that private school, including Barbara Robinson, who is Jerome's little sister. They were friends, so I think that explains how Bill kind of gets involved with everything, Bill Hodges. But I think it's a cute thing that they are friends, or at least they were, and she's worried that all her friends are going to not remember her, and Pete just wants to help his little sister and make her happy, and he knows that 2 more Jimmy Gold novels from an author that has long died would be so valuable. So he goes to his favorite English teacher and asks about selling a book, not Notebooks, but like a rare book. And he asks about different bookstores that would maybe buy it, but the one he's really interested in is a shady one where Andy runs it, Morris's old friend. And of course it's him, and he's going to know exactly, he's already seen one of the little Notebooks. He knows, that was, I'm sure, a huge, not trauma for Andy, but a huge event in Andy's life with the Notebooks and Morris and all of that. Morris getting arrested, everything. So he knows that the Notebooks are still out there somewhere, and he's going to know exactly what it is. And I'm so mad. Of course, Pete doesn't know, but oh my god. All right. So now we're in 1978 to 2014. So Morris goes to jail. He himself gets roped by several inmates. But the way he stops that is that he starts writing letters. He's one of the only literate ones in the jail, and not only is he literate, but he's really good with words. So he starts writing letters for the prisoners to either their girlfriends, their wives, to the parole board, to, I can't remember what it's called, but the organization where they help get wrongly convicted criminals free. And he becomes a big man in the prison. And he is a model citizen. Despite all of that, though, he's up for parole several times. And despite all of that, he never gets parole during the 35 years he is in prison, because the victim, the woman, comes to every meeting or parole board hearing, and she says that she's still affected by it. She's haunted by nightmares of that night, and she is the reason that he cannot get parole. Finally, she is dying of cancer. She writes a letter to the parole board saying that she wants to forgive him. She wants to spend her last moments without hate in her heart. So Morris Bellamy gets parole. Also, when he and Andy were young, Andy would talk about selling books and buying books and all of that. He was he overestimated himself, and he was like, yeah, I only need 5 years to sell things, or to sell the Rothstein notebooks. It ended up being a lot more than that, obviously, and it took him far longer to make connections like that. But that is why he opened the bookstore. It was something he's wanted to do for a long time, and Morris knows that he's alive because he gets computer privileges, and he knows where he's working. So now we are in part 2, Old Pals. So now we get to see where Bill is and what he's doing with his life. He is working with Holly Gibney, and I'm assuming Jerome whenever he's available. It's been 4 years since the original book, so Bill is now 66 years old, which means Jerome is 21. He's a college kid. He probably only helps whenever he can during summer and vacations, and even that, I'm sure Bill doesn't want to get him involved too much. But they have a company called Finders Keepers, and I think that's kind of cute. So Bill is tasked with finding a plane that was stolen, and in the moment, it seems like he doesn't really care about the guy. The guy is a wanted man, but he's like, fly away, I'm taking the plane. He also uses his, like, I can't remember what. It's like a happy slammer. It's like a sock filled with, like, ball bearings or something. It's what Holly used to not decapitate. Oh my god. It's what Holly used to take down Brady at the concert forever ago. And it's just, you whack. And so he whacked him, like, I think in the side or on the shoulder or something, or maybe a light one on the head, and got him in the car, handcuffed him, and was like, hey, fly away, and I'll let you go. I just want the plane. And I'm like, Bill, I know you're not a cop anymore, but bitch, come on. He also gets a call before or after this that Barbara called him. And I'm assuming it's all about Pete because Barbara and Tina were friends. Anyway, luckily, Bill doesn't just ignore the law anymore. He called his old partner, Pete Huntley, to make the caller of this wanted man who is he's just scamming people, basically. Morris is out of prison, and he's kind of confused by everything. Everything has changed. Nothing is the same. Obviously, it's been 35 years in prison. But he still wants the notebooks. Even throughout prison, all he could think about, all he lived for, were those notebooks. And he still wants them now. He's like, they're going to still be in the trunk. They have to be. He sneaks out to his old house. Luckily, he doesn't go inside. He does this after a visit from his parole officer, McFarland. And McFarland is just kind of feeling him out right now. Morris is very much like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I haven't done anything. I can give you a urine sample. So McFarland's like, nah, you're fine. But when Morris sneaks out to the house, he doesn't go in the house, but he goes behind the back to where he buried the trunk. And he finds that it's still there. So relieved. He's like, thank God it's still here. Of course it would be, but thank goodness it hasn't moved. Okay. He doesn't open it quite yet. He waits for that. He is just relieved that it's still there because that means the notebooks are still there. He doesn't really care about the money, but the money would definitely help. The notebooks are still there. They're still safe. So Pete, he now goes to Andy, who now goes by Drew, but I'm going to refer to him as Andy throughout the rest of the video. He goes to Andy and he talks about the notebooks. He claims he only has 6 of them, not knowing that Andy is suspicious and knows that there's more. And he is so willing to kill for them. He's so willing to do whatever needs to be done to get those notebooks. They both play hardball. They both do research on the other. Andy knows who Pete is, despite Pete giving a fake name. Andy's able to find out who he is, where he lives, about his dad's injury at the city center, Mercedes, all that jazz. He knows that they were in trouble. He knows about the money, and he threatens to call the police. His parents are going to go to jail for tax evasion, all mean things. Pete, in turn, does research on Andy and knows that Andy's on his third mortgage of his store, and he desperately needs any kind of money he can get. He's like, I'm the one with the notebooks. I'm going to decide how this goes, not you. You are going to get a little bit of money, and that'll help you. And I know you desperately need the money. And Andy's like, I'm going to call the cops, and they're going to search your house. They're going to find the notebooks anyway. So you will no longer have them, and then your parents are going to go to jail for tax evasion, because I know how you got those notebooks, basically. Pete goes to work hiding the notebooks. If the police come and they search the house, he wants the notebooks out of the house. So they were in the attic, and I think suitcases. Then he moves them to an old abandoned wreck that is in the neighborhood, like a rec center. And his dad works in real estate, so he has access to that property. And so Pete just takes the key, goes in. He puts them in cardboard boxes, labels them kitchen, and he puts them in with the other cardboard boxes that are in there. And there's actually boxes that are labeled kitchen, so he just puts them in and hides them in plain sight. He refuses to allow Andy to have these notebooks. He won't do it. So now we go to Barbara and Tina. They go and visit Bill and Holly, and Tina tells Bill everything about what she suspects with the money. She figured it out. And Pete's now like stressed. He grew he's 17, so he grew like a mustache, but it's like not a good mustache. And everyone knows it's stupid looking, but he is refusing to shave it off. He's not eating. He's looking sick all the time. Tina is worried. She thinks he got himself into something bad. She even mentions the notebook because she walked into his room one night and he hurriedly hid that notebook away from her. So she remembers it. And so Bill and Holly decide to talk to Pete on Monday because they can't do over the weekend because Pete is at a school summit trip out of town. He also calls Andy and tells him like, hey, I know we were supposed to meet on Friday to talk about the notebooks and everything and what Pete decided to do. I have a school trip that's over the weekend. I can't meet until Monday. He's like, you can look it up. I'm not lying. So Holly's also doing better, and she's still seeing her therapist, and she's just doing really good, and I'm so happy for her. I do miss Jerome. I want him to come in. We're like halfway through the book, and we just got reintroduced to Bill and Holly, and Jerome's not even in it, but I'm still very happy for Holly. Holly and Bill are friends, and I think they have a really cute friendship. Bill just wants the best for her. Holly appreciates him so much. They have such a cute friendship. Alright, so Morris now goes to an old prison buddy. It's someone he helped get out of jail by writing one of his letters, and he needs a favor. He wants access to a truck, and he wants access to a gun. He gets the truck, not the gun. This old buddy was wrongly convicted, so he's not actually like an associate, because as a parolee, you're not supposed to talk to any old prison buddies. But because he was wrongly convicted, Morris can talk to his friend. Friend is sketchy as hell. He definitely has done shit, but not the shit that he was put in jail for. So Morris is super paranoid, still, constantly, because his parole officer came to visit again, and parole officer can see that Morris is thinking about some shady shit. And the only thing that is getting Morris through all of this and sane is the notebooks, which the amount of obsession he has about these notebooks, I would not call him sane. But it's the only thing getting him through day by day. Parole officer also says he has wolf eyes. He says every parolee is either a wolf or a lamb after coming out. You don't want to be a wolf. Morris is starting to have wolf eyes, and McFarland basically just says, watch it. Morris now goes to the trunk after getting some tools. He opens it, and he finds the notebooks gone, as we all knew would happen because Pete took them. But the notebooks are gone, and he loses his goddamn mind. Loses it. Person he blames for stealing them is actually not the family of the house, because this wasn't in the backyard. It was like a trail behind the house, so no one actually owned the trail. he blames Andy because Andy was the only one who knew about the notebooks. He was the only one who could know their value, who knew about the money. It could only be Andy. And Morris has also been stalking Andy, so he knows his schedule, he knows where he'll be, and he wants revenge. He's so mad. And you just know Andy is going to rat out Pete because he's not a good guy, and he's going to be like, no, man, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was this 17-year-old kid. Go after him. And Morris is crazy, so, and obsessed. So, of course, he's going to not do nice things. And I'm annoyed. Alright, now we're on part 3, Peter and the Wolf, which, so annoying, because Pete, obviously, Peter, and the wolf, for the wolf eyes. Morris is now accepted that he has wolf eyes. So, Bill and Holly, they go see a movie, it's 22 Jump Street. Tina meets Jerome, falls in love instantly because he's so cute. He's her best friend's older brother, but she tells him everything that she told Bill and Holly. Pete is at the student summit. Morris is planning on threatening Andy with a hatchet. So Morris now goes meets Andy. They go into the back office. Andy doesn't recognize him at first because it's been 35 years. And it's not like Andy ever went to visit Morris in jail. But once he realizes who it is and he sees the hatchet in Morris's hand, they go into the back office. And Morris gets all the information he needs out of Andy. He, whacks him with the hatchet in, the butt area. So it's not exactly like it's hard to get all the information out of Andy. I feel like most people would give up that information even if they were kind of decent. Getting whacked with a hatchet, blade side in your skin. Morris unalives Andy with the hatchet. It's very gruesome, but he's really smart about it. He wipes all of his fingerprints. He washes off his face. He gets a new shirt. He is very smart about it. He makes sure to wipe everything off. He steals, before he leaves, he steals a laptop, he steals some cash, a gun, and a copy of the tape of Pete meeting Andy. Bill spends some of his free time going to see Brady, who is the bad guy from book 1, whose brain is mush because of Holly and the whack-a-sock thing. But there's some question about if it actually is mush. There have been rumors that Brady is actually not, that he actually is there a little bit. And there's a picture frame of Brady and his mom. And Bill tries to get under Brady's skin constantly. And when he gets up, the picture frame falls down. And so he puts it back, falls down again, and you know it's Brady. And that is, so yeah, not quite so much as we have seen. Pete's losing his mind. Poor kid. He's at the student summit, and he is just panicking. He's so stressed over this meeting coming up with Andy. He's planning to tell Andy, hey, here are 13 of the notebooks that you can have access to. They're the 13 that, only have poems and stuff. They're not the Jimmy Gold novels. And he's like, you can sell them, split the profit with me a little bit. A slice of bread is better than nothing. So take it. But he's stressed. He doesn't want to get his family in trouble. He doesn't want to be in trouble. He just wants the notebook situation dealt with and done. He, of course, does not know that Andy is not alive anymore, but he is planning to meet with him on Monday evening, after school, so afternoon. Jerome sees Bill. Yay! Get the whole gang back together. Very excited about that. And he talks Bill into letting both himself and Holly join in the conversation with Pete. Basically just cover all the exits of the school in case Pete decides to leave out of a different entrance, in case Tina comes clean and tells her brother what she did. So Bill is still the one who is going to do all the talking with Pete, but he allows them to cover the exits as well. Holly decides to call Tina because she cannot get out of her mind the notebooks, and she wants to know more information about it. She's trying to be reassuring with Tina, but that's not exactly her forte. But there is a really sweet moment where Tina is talking about putting on makeup and how girls always do that, and Holly's like, you don't need makeup. She's like, you don't need eye makeup. You're fine. Like, she's like, you have pretty eyes. Don't worry about it. And for Holly, I think that's really sweet. She's telling her not to worry. I think it's a very sweet moment that Holly shares. So Morris now abandons his work on Monday, and he doesn't care about his boss is supposed to call his parole officer when he leaves work with no notice, or like doesn't come in with no notice for no good reason. He doesn't care. His plan is it's Monday, it's supposed to be the meeting with Pete. He's gonna get the notebooks and be out of Dodge. He steals Andy's car and he breaks into the old rec room. His plan is to get the notebooks and get out of Dodge as fast as possible. Tina falls sick at school. She vomits. She's stressed and paranoid that Pete's no longer going to want to be like her friend. He's going to hate her, no longer talk to her. When he starts talking to Bill, because she was the one who ratted him out, and poor thing, she's so scared and so stressed about everything. Their mom, Linda, she's starting to think about who actually gave the money. She thinks that she knows it's Pete, has no idea how Pete got that kind of money, but she knows. Morris then steals Andy's car, and he goes into the old rec room, because that's where he's going to, I think, stash the notebooks. And he is actually in the same room as the notebooks. He's with all the boxes that say kitchen. He moves one of the kitchen boxes. I'm just like, wow, that's heavy. To like use as like a stepladder to get back out through the window. Like, fuck, dude, you were right there. And I mean, Pete hit them very well, so props to Pete. And of course, I don't want Morris to get the notebooks. No one wants him to get the notebooks. He's the bad guy. But like, fuck, if he had just licked, he could have just gotten the notebooks and gotten out of Dodge then and there. And then when I tell you I was stressed reading this book. Anywho, back to the story. So, Bill talks to Pete. Does not go well. Pete gives him nothing. He also then slips the tail because Bill's like, Jerome, follow the kid. He slips his tail going through a pharmacy. The pharmacist knows him. Lets him go out the back door. And he makes it to Andy's shop where Morris is waiting for him. Like, fuck! Okay, sorry. Getting a little emotional. So, Morris takes place in Andy's shop as like a stand-in employee. Customer comes in for a book that he had like prepaid for. Morris is stressed. He's like sweating this whole time because he told the customer that Andy was out of town. But if Pete comes in while the customer is there, he can't tell Pete that Andy's not there. So he just told this customer that Andy isn't there. So he's like, what do I do? Luckily for Morris, they don't cross paths. Customer leaves. Pete comes in, and Morris gets him into the back room, says Andy's waiting for you in the back office, where the body still is. So Morris wants to know the location of the notebooks. Obviously, he doesn't give two flying fucks about the money, but the notebooks, oh my god, the notebooks he wants access to. Pete won't give it because he's a smart kid, and he knows that the moment he gives up the location of the notebooks, he's dead. Pete doesn't want to die. So they kind of wrestle a little bit. Pete like whacks him in the face with like a bottle. I'm not entirely sure how the layout is, so it might not make total sense, this like little battle in the office, but Pete whacks him in the face, gets away. Gunshots go off a couple times. Luckily, no one is hit. I mean, it would have been nice if Morris had been hit by like a ricochet, but you know, nobody gets hit. Luckily, Pete doesn't. Pete just wants out of there. The hatchet that was used to unalive Andy is still there. So Pete takes it and throws the hatchet at Morris. Morris like ducks, and Pete runs out of the store. Holly, Bill, and Jerome all talk to one of the literature teachers. And like during all of this, and so they talk to one of the literature teachers at school. The same one that Pete went to asking about selling a book, and they find out exactly what they need to know. The teacher finally remembers and tells them that he was interested in the shady bookstore, and they're like, all right, let's go. So, yay! Holly had a hunch. She was so sure of this the whole time. Bill was not. He was like, the notebooks don't mean anything. And Holly's like, no, the notebooks mean something. I'm telling you, bro. And I'm so proud of her that her hunch worked. And it's got to be such a self-esteem booster. And I'm so happy for her. I love her. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of her. So Morris calls Pete and tells him that he'll blame the death of Andy on him. Like all the blame will be put on him. Pete's fingerprints are now on the weapon that was used to kill Andy. His fingerprints are all over there. Morris will send in the tape of them arguing. And Pete knows that he doesn't know how accurate forensics can be in real life. He knows that in movies and TV shows they can be super accurate, but he doesn't know about real life. And on Sunday, when he was at the student summit, he was gone all day because he was sick. Like, he was sick with paranoia and worry about his meeting with Andy. So no one saw him on Sunday. So it's not like he has a great alibi over the weekend. But Morris says that he'll wipe all the fingerprints off if Pete and him can reach an agreement. Pete hangs up. He doesn't trust Morris, which, fair, Jesus. He's wondering what will stop Morris from, even if he wipes off the fingerprints now, what will stop him from sending in that tape afterwards once he has all the notebooks and is gone. And then Pete will still be blamed for it. Pete then calls Bill and he asks for help. He is like, I'm so sorry, I need help. So Bill, Holly, and Jerome are all on their way to pick up Pete. Pete is like, oh, there's a bus. It'll take me to my house quicker than just waiting for them. I'm going to take the bus. His mom calls. He answers. The mom is like, where'd you get all the money? She figured everything out. She's like, how could you have gotten this kind of money? What kind of trouble are you in? Pete's like, shut up, Mom. Like, listen, there's a man that might be coming to the house. You need to get Tina. Lock all the doors. Mom doesn't believe him, which, when you think about it rationally, is kind of fair. Her 17-year-old son is like talking crazy, got all this money. She probably thinks he's into drugs. But, girl, she doesn't believe him. Doesn't do anything. I don't know how fast this was after the conversation, but then Morris breaks in. Or I don't even know if the doors were locked. So he gets in the house and he shoots her in the fucking head. Then Morris gets Tina, ties her hands behind her back, calls Pete from Tina's phone. So Pete knows that he has her. And he's like, give me the notebooks or I'm killing your sister. Morris takes Tina to the old wreck, where the notebooks already are. They're in that same room with the notebooks. Pete gets home because he needs the wagon to get the notebooks and meet them. So he needs to go home first. And he finds his mom. She's alive. Thank God. Jeez, I thought she died. Like, I was so sad for Pete because there was no way he wouldn't blame himself for his mother's death, even though he was not responsible for it. But I'm so happy she's alive. The bullet grazed her head. It's a miracle. There's part of her skull that is visible, apparently, but she is alive. So Pete calls 911, and he leaves to go get Tina. During this time, Bill, Jerome, and Holly, they go, they'd already been to the bookstore before Pete had called them, and they saw the murder. They saw the crime scene. And they weren't calling the cops quite yet, but they were going to have to by the end of the day. The best they could do was try to help Pete with the situation first. So then they go to the house and see, it's not like right after, there's a little bit of a time gap, like probably like 30 minutes, I would say. There's a lot of construction on the road, which, God, construction sucks. But, so it takes them a little longer to get to the house than they wanted. But they get to the house, they see the mom as well. They do beat the ambulance, so Holly stays with the mom. And she recalls 911, stays with them. She also asks for Pete Huntley because even despite Pete not being exactly happy with Bill with everything from the first book, Bill trusts Pete as a cop and knows that he's a good cop. So he's like, call Pete. It's the best way. Jerome and Bill then go to follow the trail. They kind of know where. The mom is able to give them enough information so they know where to go. So Pete goes to the wreck. He finds Morris and he plays a little trick. He's like, yeah, the notebooks are in this other room in the wreck. You were so close. Even though he was actively in the room with the books. But it gets Morris out of the room. And so he's able to go try to untie his sister. She's tied up with cords. Her ankle is broken because she dropped down from like the window. And this poor girl, she was like beaten by Morris. I don't know how bad, but her ankle's broken. She definitely has bruises. I don't know if she has more broken bones, but this poor girl, she's like 14 years old. Luckily, no roping has happened, but still, that's so traumatizing. So Pete takes out all the notebooks from both the boxes that he had, and he douses them with lighter fluid. He also has his father's lighter. And Morris and Pete then have like a Mexican standoff. That's at least how Morris phrased it. Morris has the gun, Pete has the lighter, and he knows that all Morris wants is those notebooks. But they're now doused in lighter fluid. So he's like, drop the gun or I'm dropping the lighter. And Morris is like, close the lighter and make the flame go out or I'm shooting your sister. Like, it's just, Luckily, Bill comes in and he whacks him with the little like sock ball bearing thing. And Pete and Bill together are able to get the gun away from Morris. During this though, Pete accidentally drops the lighter and so the books are now up in flames. Like, so once Morris has no more gun, that all kind of happens. He goes for the books. He is himself catching on fire. Like his shirt, his clothes, like he's catching on fire because the flame is pretty big. But he is going for these books. He is trying to save what he can. He has spent 35 years obsessing about these books, and he does not want to let them go without a fight. During that time, Tina, Pete, and Bill all managed to escape with Jerome's help. Morris is just on fire. And now we are at after. Oh, but before after, they all walk home, and Pete is determined to be the one to carry Tina home, and Tina is just crying in his arms, and like, you can tell that she feels really safe with Pete, and I think that's really sweet, that despite everything that happened, she never once blamed Pete for any of it. She's just happy that her brother's alive, and she's happy that she's alive, and she's happy it's all over. And I think that's really sweet. So now we're at after, and it's in 3 sections. So the first one's picnic, where Jerome and Holly have a meal, and Holly's about to drive to go see her mom. That's a huge thing. It's like 400 miles away. And she's like, I'm fine. It'll be all daytime driving. There's no tolls. I'll be fine. But I'm so proud. She's made such strides. I love it. But both Jerome and Holly are really, really concerned about Bill because he keeps going to see Brady. Now, Bill is the one obsessed. Not about books, not about vengeance, but he is obsessed over Brady. Now we're at Trunk, where Pete is good. He's living life. The New Yorker is actually doing a story on him, and Pete was able to talk them into letting him be the one to write it. After all, he was the one who experienced it. But they're doing a little photo shoot right now with the trunk. Pete feels really awkward about it, you can tell, but life is good. His mom's recovering. His sister still has nightmares, but she's doing better. She's going to get to go to that private school next year. We're excited. And now we're at the 3rd section, which is Clack. So Bill goes to see Brady again. And he goes specifically because one of the nurses unalived herself. And he knows that that's Brady's signature. He likes to convince people to unalive themselves. He tried to do it with Bill. He did it with Olivia in the first book. And So Bill suspects Brady. There's no reason to suspect him. He's basically a vegetable. But Bill suspects Brady nonetheless. There's been stories about things he can do. Bill leaves the room after Brady doesn't do anything, and things start happening. The bathroom faucet turns on and off. The iPad that they let their patients watch videos on, I think that's all the iPad can do is like videos or like games that have no internet access. The iPad changes games, like changes the tutorial games. And the picture of him and his mom falls over, all without Brady moving an inch. And that is how we end the Bill Hodges second book, Finders Keepers. We went 2 books with no supernatural things. Or, well, a book and a half, I guess. Mostly 2 books. And now the third book is obviously going to be about Brady, again, and his supernatural powers. And I'm worried for Bill. He's just getting older. He's nearing 70. He's probably, I think 2 years happen in between this book and the next one-ish. So, but even if no time passes, Bill's still 66 years old. And people are just going to think he's crazy. So, anywho, that's the next book, which I will definitely talk about. That'll be my next video. I'm excited, actually. Love Stephen King's, like, supernatural stuff. And this book, I actually really enjoyed. I thought it was interesting that it was the Bill Hodges trilogy, but Bill was, like, a side character. It was definitely Pete's story, and I actually really appreciate that. I mean, obviously the first book and probably definitely the third book are going to be Bill's story. And this second book was definitely needed, so you knew a little bit about Brady, a little bit more about Brady anyway. You got to see where Bill and Holly and Jerome all were, so that was exciting. But, oh my goodness. Yeah, I liked it. I liked Pete's story. I'm glad it all worked out. But when I tell you I was stressed at the end, the last half of part 3, before, after, oh my god, I read that so fast. I don't know if any of you guys read quickly when you're like really stressed about what's going to happen in the book. You can tell me down below. But Lord knows I do. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please like the video, subscribe if you're new. I would really appreciate it. I'll see y'all next time when we review End of Watch, the third in the Bill Hodges trilogy. Peace out. Have a good one.